Jonathan Joestar, is he a Marisu?
That's a complicated question.
Why is it a complicated question? Because no one seems to agree on the definition of Marisu. I have heard more definitions of Marisu in the past year than I've heard people saying hi to me, which means either there's a lot of definitions or I really need a better social life. Well, after mulling it over a bit, I have found a way to test Jonathan Joestar's Marisu-ness. The meaning of any word in a language is simply the consensus that that word means that one thing, so therefore we must take the most popular definitions of Marisu and put Jonathan up against them in a battle of terrible writing. So to test Jonathan Joestar's Su-ness, I've picked out 5 of the most popular definitions for Marisu, and I'm going to be testing him against them one by one. Our first definition comes from the good old Oxford Dictionary. A Marisu is a type of female character who is depicted as unrealistically lacking in flaws or weaknesses. Now, does Jonathan apply to this? Well, not quite yet.
Look, brothers!
There. Now does he apply?
Nope.
Well, if we're talking about physical weaknesses, this doesn't apply to Jonathan at all. Dio Brando has a pretty clear hard counter with his freeze ability against Jonathan's Hammond, and Jonathan in turn needs to get creative in order to counter these abilities. And while most of Phantom Blood is Jonathan and Dio exchanging punches, it's not like any of the minor villains didn't pose a threat at all either. However, some people argue that Marisu is a detail of personality, not physical prowess. This is something I disagree with, but the point still stands. Does Jonathan have any personality weaknesses? Yes, actually, and surprisingly enough, it's his kind nature. Kindness and patience are virtues, however the stigma of kindness and patience is naivety. And when somebody is naive, they can either be manipulated by various evil bad guy, or lured into trap by said evil bad guy, etc. and so forth. But does Jonathan display any naivety, and does this naivety cost him? Yes. If Jonathan never agreed to handcuff Dio, Dio wouldn't have gotten the chance to try and stab Jonathan, and George Joestar wouldn't have been dead. So yeah, kind characters can have their own kindness come back and bite them in the face. So that first definition is a big fat no for Jonathan. Second definition of a Marisu is a seemingly flawless self-insert for the main writer. Do I even need to go over this? No! Third definition is definitely one of my favorites, a character with excessive amounts of plot armor. So how much plot armor does Jonathan have? Well, there was that one fight scene with Bluford. You know, the one where he somehow manages to break through Bluford's hair with absolutely no explanation whatsoever. But that's honestly about it, really, and one instance of plot armor just isn't enough to condemn one character as a Marisu. That's just a plot hole, and every story has a plot hole. Granted, there's also the argument that Jonathan's power-up during the Tarkus fights could also be argued as plot armor, to which I say, no. The thing about plot armor is that our main characters are immune from pretty much any sort of harm whatsoever, so there is no consequences in a plot armor based power-up. I'm talking about something like Xenoblade's Pyrrha, who is constantly pulling out new powers from between her beps with no consequences or explanations. When Jonathan got his power-up, 1, it had not only a reasonable explanation, but 2, it had the consequence of Zeppeli dying. A consequence that would continue to echo for the rest of Part 1 and subsequent parts for all the Zeppelis who came afterwards. Plot armor has no repercussions, no characters dying, no nothing, just magical power up and then boom, everyone's still alive. So we're 3 tropes in and Jonathan hasn't met any of them. Maybe this last one will get him. And Marisu has too many skills and is just too talented with absolutely everything. Okay, before we can get Jonathan up to bat to see if he hits the ball on this one, I gotta say this definition is pretty stupid. Though I can see where it comes from. I want you to look at this example really quickly. Okay, here is character number 1. She is an average high school girl with a detective investigator level intellect, is a crack shot with a gun, has amazing social skills and can blend in with almost any social environment, is great with infiltration, keeps a very cool head under the most extreme of circumstances, is a master of disguise, can do parkour and is very acrobatic, is trained well with hand-to-hand combat, knows enough about demolitions to level 1 building with a single brick of C4, and can speak multiple languages. Does this seem off to you? This should. This is grade A Marisu material. Now let's take a look at example number 2, Miss Lisa Lorente, a secret agent working for the United Nations Intelligence, whose skills include a detective investigator level intellect, is a crack shot with a gun, has amazing social skills and can blend in with almost any social environment, is great with infiltration, keeps a very cool head under the most extreme of circumstances, is a master of disguise, can do parkour and is very acrobatic, is trained well with hand-to-hand combat and knows enough about demolitions to level 1 building with a couple of bricks of C4, and can speak multiple languages. See, that last example may have been a little tedious listing off all those skills, but it wasn't nearly as jarring. The difference between Lisa and average high school girls is that it makes sense that Lisa has all these talents. She's a super undercover spy. Now where on earth would the average high school girl learn how to arm and even get a hold of C4? Internet maybe? Maybe. A character can be talented in any aspect as long as those aspects make sense. So do all of Jonathan's talents make sense? Well, he's studying archaeology, he's in incredibly good shape because he's been in sports all of his life, and he got trained by Hammond by one of the best people in the country, so that's 4 home runs in a row. Let's see, is there a 5th definition we could throw at him? Well, yes, I think there is. What is this one here? A Mary Sue is any character who shows any sort of positivity at all. They are not allowed to be happy. Only the best characters are brooding and angsty with 7-foot-long katanas, and who also do have inexplicable large amounts of plot armor. But that's okay, because they're just so fucking cool at being absolute jerks to everybody. I'm not touching that one, you can't make me.